Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander's Corps studio, temporary studio I should say. Welcome to the show. So, the last day of spoiler season, at least I believe it is. Someone in the comments below let me know if that is correct or not. Regardless, lots going on, and yeah, a preview that I definitely did not expect to see. Kind of an off-the-wall new commander that is slowly growing on me, actually. It's pretty weird, I think, but you know what? I think Migloz, that's how you say it, Maze Crusher, can be a sneakily interesting commander. A 4/4 Phyrexian beast for 1 red and a green. It's going to enter the battlefield with 5 oil counters on it. Now, oil counters are a brand new type of counter from this brand new set, and there's different ways that you can interact with them and different ways that, care about, number of permits that you have with oil counters or the number of oil counters on something. So yeah, there's going to be cards that can play around with that. Not going to really focus on those new cards too much, but yeah, with those oil counters on this, you can utilize them in 3 different ways. Number 1, pay 1, remove an oil counter from it. It gains Vigilance and Menace until end of turn. So already you get, a 4/4 for this 3 mana. So that's, a pretty powerful, low to the ground creature, a low to the ground commander. Giving it Vigilance and Menace obviously can keep it back for blocking and also help get it through. And yeah, your opponents are probably going to have to let this get through more often than they like, because you also can remove oil counters from it by paying 2 and removing 2 oil counters to give it +2/+2 until end of turn. So you can pump this up. If an opponent's like, oh, well, you know what? I'm going to block this because I'm going to take your commander out. And you're like, oh, wait a second there. Let's remove some counters. Let's get this bigger and let's take out your creature. Or should I say creatures? Again, if we have Menace, they're not going to be able to block it. So you have some flexibility to it. And there's a couple of different situations and a couple of different plays that you could really make with this commander that can be impactful. By paying 3 also, you can move 3 oil counters from it to destroy target artifact or enchantment. This is just nice to have. Sometimes there's a really pesky artifact or enchantment out there that can be, well, and swing the game into an opponent's favor, and you can really slow them down. Now, that is a decently hefty cost, compared to the number of oil counters this has to start, with 5. But yeah, sometimes it's going to be worth doing that. And also, of course, there are plenty of ways to actually get more and more oil counters on this and to kind of just reset this in some ways as well. So yeah, I think this commander does have some interesting potential. When I first saw it, I was just like, what in the world? But yeah, I mean, with the oil counters that are coming out, with the, or should I say cards that care about oil counters that are coming out, with the different potential, of, just doing some combat tricks with this commander, you can do some pretty interesting things, again, for this low to the ground, decently powered commander that could probably take some opponents out actually quite quickly with the right build. Now, on this episode, I'm going to be going through some budget buys to consider for you building around this commander, as well as some pricier picks. Budget buys are going to be within my budget, so less than $1 per card, and then the pricier picks above that. So yeah, with all that said, well, first up, a reminder that there is a card list link in the description below. Now, with all that said, let's jump into it. One of the very first cards that came to my mind is Vorak Battlehorns, which is a very interesting piece of equipment that can really work well with this commander. Equipped creature has trample and can't be blocked by more than 1 creature, and this low-to-the-ground equipment just costs 1 to equip. Now, this can work perfectly with our commander's first ability, again, which is just, hey, pay 1, remove a oil counter from it. It gets Vigilance and Menace, and Menace is the key here because Menace, again, says, yeah, it can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures. This says it can be blocked by more than 1. Basically, those things are like, it just can't be blocked. It's just unblockable. Your commander is going to be getting through on whatever unlucky opponent you were swinging at. And speaking of unlucky, you can really utilize, again, that +2/+2. And obviously, you can do that multiple times in a turn by making it a big power play with cards like Two-Handed Axe and Blood Mist. Two-Handed Axe, well, first up, you can cast it as an adventure. Target creature you control gains double strike until end of turn. That's nice. Also, when this is an equipment on the battlefield, whenever a equipped creature attacks, double its power until end of turn. So that is not double strike, that is just doubling power. So it does pair well with double strike cards like Blood Mist. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gains double strike until end of turn. You can very easily, with just a couple things in play, turn this commander into a 2-shot KO and also a 1-shot KO in some scenarios as well. I mean, just think about this, okay? Two-Handed Axe on your commander, utilizing that middle ability once, okay? Doubling your commander's power to, first step, go +2/+2, so that'd be what, a 6/6 then doubling it to 12 with that attack. Yeah, that is a 2-shot KO if you've got Blood Mist as well, giving your commander double strike, and there's plenty of ways to give your commander double strike in these colors, or I should say, with red, obviously. Then you can turn it into a 1-shot KO in that same example, again, utilizing that middle ability once, +2/+2 to 6, doubling it to 12, doubling it again to 24. Yeah, that opponent's going to be taken out. But of course, another way to increase your commander's power is going to be with ++1 counters, which interacts incredibly well with Proliferate, which already benefits your commander, of course. Encouraging Crisis, a great card for this commander. Put a +1 counter on target creature, then Proliferate. So yeah, I mean, again, just getting that on your commander, proliferating is going to be 2 +1 counters on your commander, turning it into a 6/6, which of course has a lot of potential again for when you're adding even more power to it, when you're doubling it up. And then also, while proliferating, of course, you can choose any other counters that are out there and give an additional counter. So yeah, oil counters. You can get more and more oil counters on your commander with proliferate effects. So yeah, other ones like Smell Fear can really help out as well. Proliferate, target creature control fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. So again, if you've got other ways to get +1 counters on your commander, you can really make the most out of these proliferate effects to get, its power up, as well as getting those oil counters up so you can utilize them when you need to. Evolution Sage, a great one that actually just appeared underneath my dollar mark. I think it's at 99 cents right now because this is seeing a reprint. Thank you. Landfall, whenever I land in this battlefield under control, proliferate. Yeah, you're in green. Of course, you've got plenty of ways to, ramp with lands. You've got plenty of ways to get a ton of lands into play. Even just getting Evolving Wilds into play and cracking it, getting another land is a great way to get more and more counters on your commander. Again, whether that's oil counters or +1 counters. Yeah, proliferate can really help you out throughout the game in this kind of a deck. But another way to get counters on this commander is kind of to reset those counters by getting that ETB trigger again. Now, Reincarnation is a pretty specific card in green. We usually see this kind of effect in black, but regardless, choose target creature. When that creature dies this turn, return a creature card from its owner's graveyard to the battlefield on the control of that creature's owner. Basically, hey, if your commander dies, it's going to be coming right back. You get that ETB again, you reset those oil counters. Speaking of which, we also have access to a blink card like, Voyager Staff. Hey, pay 2, sack it, blink target creature. This can be a great way to avoid a board wipe because, the commander comes back at the beginning of the end step. But also, yeah, another great way to just reset our oil counters. If we're at 0 oil counters on our commander, we immediately go back up to 5. So that's a lot of value for us. Speaking of value, a card like Frontier Siege can do a lot of work for us throughout the game. When it enters the battlefield, choose counter to dragons. For this example, I'm choosing cons. At the beginning of each of your main phases, add green to your mana pool. So basically, 4 free mana every single one of our turns. Again, 2 in our first main, 2 in our second main, and yeah, you can utilize that mana for our commander's abilities. But now let's move on to some pricier picks. And yeah, Braid of Fire, a pretty expensive card, and one that, like Frontier Siege, can give us a big burst of mana. Enchantment for just 2 mana. Cumulative upkeep, add red to your mana pool. This obviously used to work differently when there was like mana burn, and you're like, oh no, I don't want a ton of mana that I can't use. Now there is no mana burn, so it does not matter. And yeah, you can just utilize, more and more mana every single turn, especially, with activated abilities like our commanders. Speaking of which, Heartstone. This is going to reduce the cost of every single activated ability for creatures by 1. Now keep in mind, this does impact our opponent's creatures as well. But yeah, now for your commander's second ability, again, to get, +2/+2, it only costs 1 mana, and to destroy artifacts and enchantments is only going to cost 2 mana. Now, obviously on top of the oil counters that you have, but again, like I've said, plenty of ways to get more and more oil counters on our commander, like Conjurer's Closet. Beginning of your end step, you may exile target creature you control to return that card to the battlefield under your control. So yeah, feel free to utilize, again, your commander to the fullest. Use up all those oil counters on it. Make a big play, pump your commander a ton, take players out, then just blink your commander at the end of the turn, get it back into play for free, again, every single one of your end steps, and get those 5 oil counters back on it. Just a free reset. And speaking of free, yeah, Lucianist Bracers and Battle Mage's Bracers can do a ton of work for you throughout the game. Lucianist Bracers, hey, whenever an ability of equipped creature is activated, if it isn't a mana ability, copy that ability, choose targets for the copy. Now, I do want to remind people in the comments below, because I always get comments on these kinds of things. Mana ability doesn't mean that it costs mana to actually utilize. It means that it produces mana, kind of like, a Land of War Elves. Okay, that is a mana ability. It produces mana, so you can't copy it with something like this. Our commander's abilities are not mana abilities. None of them are. So yeah, we can can copy every single one of them with this. We are getting double the value. Well, not of the first one, double vigilance, double menace, doesn't really matter. But the next two, again, instead of +2/+2, it's going to be +4/+4 essentially. And then, yeah, destroying 2 artifacts and enchantments essentially every single time. 2 artifacts and or enchantments. You know what I mean? Battle Mage's Bracers, though, somewhat similar. Equipped creature has haste. This can be a great way to swing right away with our commander as well. Whenever ability equipped creature is activated, if it isn't a mana ability, you can pay 1. If you do, copy the ability, choose targets for the copy. So basically the exact same thing, but with a slight cost for that 1. Still a discount, again, for the most part, again, for the second and third abilities. And just a nice way to, just utilize those oil counters further. And speaking of those oil counters, we can utilize them further with Luxior Jada's Gift. We can take advantage of them. Equipped creature gets ++1 for each counter on it. That does not specify the type of counter on it. Again, if we're putting +1 counters on our commander, and we're proliferating those, and proliferating our oil counters as well, we can get a ton of counters on this. This counts every single one of those counters. Doesn't care what kind of a counter it is. It's going to pump our commander a ton. And again, for this low to the ground equipment, this can really help us out. Finally, another way to utilize those counters in an even more impactful way. Let's talk about Sword of Truth and Justice. Equipped creature gets +2/+2, protection from white and blue. That's nice. Again, just an additional pump effect, which is great. And of course, a way to protect our commander from, white and blue spells. Can get through on opponents who have white and blue creatures. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, though, you also get a +1 counter on a creature you control. Then you proliferate. So again, this is a way to get additional, counters on our commander that we can start proliferating, getting more of those +1 counters, getting more of those oil counters. A great piece of equipment to have if you got the budget for it. Speaking of having the budget for something and it being very impactful, Unnatural Growth. At the beginning of each combat, double the power and toughness of each creature you control until end of turn. Yeah, this one is going to be more and more impactful the more we put into that middle ability. Again, let's say, again, we are at, just 4/4. We have nothing else, on our commander, okay? We pay the 2. We get +2/+2. We're getting double the value out of that every single time we're using it, because then we're going to go to combat and we double that up. So instead of our commander, doubling to 8 power, it's going to double to what? 12. So obviously this can get even more absurd. Speaking of that, yeah, gratuitous violence. Let's double another thing up. If a creature you control will deal damage to a permanent or player, deals double that damage to that permanent or player instead. So another way to kind of stack on top of all those other doubling effects. Yeah, this plus double strike, plus Unnatural Growth. I mean, your commander can hit incredibly hard, incredibly quickly. So yeah, overall, an interesting new commander. One that I think, well, again, it just kind of seems kind of weird when you first look at it. You're like, oh, okay. I mean, oil counters, yeah, it can kind of work with those new oil counter type cards. But of course, there's a lot of just interesting plays that you can make with this commander. There's a lot of ways that you can really take advantage of those counters, ways you can get more of those counters, reset those counters, take advantage of other counters, take advantage of those abilities to their fullest. So yeah, definitely an interesting commander. If you're interested in as well, make sure you check out that card list, link in the description below. So yeah, that's today's episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.